Hello everyone and welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop. This is Colin and today I am going to do a playthrough of a game I'm really enjoying. I just got back from Cascadia National Park and I've got to say, if you are at all a nature fan and you live in the United States, or heck if you don't and you come to the United States, check out Cascadia National Park. My family and I, we have 3 boys. They were just having a blast. We hiked a ton of mountains, and right when I got home, I had this game sitting here waiting for me, and I could not wait to dive in. This is Cascadia. Now, this game is a competitive or solo game. It'll be tile drafting. It is a beat your own score, so to speak, game. So it's for the solo. You're not going against an AI, but it's just a very relaxing, enjoyable experience. And I have to say, the competitive game is really, really fun. They also came with a family and an intermediate level for this game, and so my 7-year-old son can totally play this game with me, and it's great. Also, if you want to know how to play this game, there's a YouTube channel called Kids Explained. I highly recommend checking it out. I'll put it in the description below. They have 2 brothers that are, I don't know the ages, maybe 7 and 6 years old, and they explain how to play this game just as good as Rodney Smith. I recommend checking it out. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into setting up quick and we'll do our playthrough. Cascadia comes with a multitude of different scenarios that you can play. You can actually play these competitively if you'd like. They recommend if you play them solo, you start with number 1 and work your way up to number 15 as they get progressively harder. In order to consider that you have won, or if you want to say that you did win in a multiplayer game, you'd have to complete all of the objectives that are up here and then have the highest score. Since we're doing the first scenario, our goal is simple. We're trying to gain 80 victory points at the end of the game. It also tells us, because there are 5 wildlife types in the game, we have bears, we have elk, we have salmon, we have hawks, and we have foxes. And is it hawks or falcons? I can never remember. Hawks or falcons. This tells us, though, for each one of those, since I do have the Kickstarter version, there's 5 versions of these types of wildlife for scoring. We're going to use the A versions for this game. If I do gain the 80 victory points using these A's, I can cross off one of these symbols that denotes that's my symbol, and we can go on to scenario 2. And then that one says use all B's, and you're still trying to get 80 points, and so on and so forth. Kind of cool. I really like how they did this. You can even then put your name here and track whenever you complete achievements and move up your trail along Cascadia. So cool. The first part of setup will be grabbing the appropriate amount of tiles. We, in a solo or 2-player game, will use 43 tiles. I have a ton of tiles over here that I'm not using. What we'll do is we'll reveal 4 tiles from here to create the offer on the table. Here we have our tile offer all set up. Now, the next thing we need to do is grab wildlife tokens. I'm going to grab 4 random ones and place them out underneath these tiles. During the game, what we'll be doing is drafting both the tile and the wildlife token that are in the same space. Now, there are times when we can change that when we use our nature tokens, but I'll show that in the playthrough. And in general, you're always going to be grabbing this entire row like this, and then you'd replace it. Competitively, you'd simply replace it. In the solo version, after every time we grab 1 tile and 1 wildlife token, the farthest one to the right will also be removed, and you'll replace both of them by taking the 2 that are remaining, sliding them all the way to the right, and then replenishing them. One of the ways that you score points in this game is by placing out wildlife tokens out onto your habitat. These cards here, which we can see are all going to be denoted with A, are the ones that we're going to use for scoring. There are 4 to 5 different types of these for each of the animal types. So when you play this, you can mix and match those up or follow the scenarios that are in the book itself. So for the hawks, how we can score points. We can have a hawk, and nowhere adjacent to it can there be a hawk. And for every hawk that you have in your habitat, you'll score an additional amount of points. So if I have 7 hawks in my habitat that are not adjacent to any other hawks, we would score 22 points. For salmon here, we want a long run. So we want to have salmon connected and creating the longest run, while 7 would be the ideal number to get 25 points of amount of salmon. However, they cannot be touching more than just one other salmon tile, and they must create a long run. If I place, let's say, a salmon here, that would mean I wouldn't have a long run. So you need to make sure they're only touching one other salmon type. Grizzly bears want to be in mating pairs. So you put them next to each other and then no grizzly bears adjacent to them. For every set of mating pairs, you'll score additional points. Elk are one of the harder ones. They are a line. You actually need them to be a straight line. They can't be like the salmon where they might be moving all around. It's not a straight line. These ones have to be in a straight line. However, it's 13 points if you just get 4 in a straight line. And you'll see how that works while we play. And finally, the foxes. The foxes will score you a point for each adjacent unique animal type. So for an example, this fox here will actually score 6 points because it has a fox, it has one of the hawks, it has an elk, it has a salmon, and a bear. But if it had another bear here, it's not going to score 7 points because there's already a bear adjacent to it. But each fox is counted separately. So then this fox here would be worth 2 points. So this one would be worth 6 and that one would be worth 2. So that's a total of 8 points. And actually, I shouldn't say 6. There's only 5 different animal types, so it's impossible to have 6. Sorry about that, but 5 different animal types would be 5 and 2 for 7 points. Next, we have our nature tokens here. Now, these at the end of the game are worth 1 victory point each. However, you can also use them during the game, and they can be very effective. The most common way I seem to use them for is you can always spend one to be able to gain 1 tile from one row, but then a wildlife token from a different row, and you can do that by spending one of these. You can also spend one of these to take any amount of the wildlife tokens, set them aside, and replace them with new ones. And you can do that as many times as you want, as long as each time that you do that, you spend a nature token. Last but not least, you'll want to grab one of the starting habitat tiles, and this is the one that we have chosen randomly for our game. Now you can see here, this tile is what we call a keystone habitat tile. If ever we do get a salmon, and remember that's the only one that we can place here. So you can see we can only place a salmon here. We could place a fox or a hawk here, and we could place a salmon, an elk, or a bear in this space. If we do place a salmon in this spot, you see that symbol here plus that arrow, that reminds you that you gain one of these nature tokens. The final part I want to talk about before we jump into playing is the other way you score points in this game. You're going to score points for the longest continuous part of each of the habitat types. So for an example, if I have 8 connections of forest habitat tiles, then that will score me 8 points. And since we're playing solo, if my longest run of any of these types of habitat types is 7 or greater, I gain an additional bonus 2 points. Now, when you're playing competitively, you just compare that to the other people playing, and depending upon the player count, you get a various amount of bonus points. But for us, we're looking to try and get, if possible, 7 consecutive tiles of each of these 5 types of habitats. Now, it's not going to happen. We'll probably try and go for 2 to 3, but that is the third and final way, or the other way, I should say, that you will score points in this game. All right, with that, let's jump in and start the game. In the solo game, the first thing you'll want to do is grab 1 set of tile and wildlife tokens. Now, this wildlife token that you decide to choose with the tile, you do not have to place on the tile that you're drafting. It just has to be placed somewhere in your habitat. If you can't place it, that's fine. It just goes back into the bag. But remember, that's one of the big ways you score points. So you really want to be able to place those wildlife tokens. Because of that, I think I'm going to start off with this one. This one has some wetlands and a river, plus it has some salmon, and I love to have a salmon run. So the first thing that we're going to do is grab that, and we'll place that in our habitat in a second. Then what happens next is the farthest right tile and wildlife token get removed. These will slide down to the end, including this one, and then we'll replenish this with 2 more tiles. And we'll draw 2 more of the wildlife tokens. And it just so happens we drew another 2 elk. So now we have 3 elk and 1 hawk in the area here for drafting. If that ever happens, when it's your turn to try and draft, and in solo that's going to be every round, you can decide that you can replenish those 3, take those 3 away and replenish them with new wildlife tokens before you decide to choose which one you want to choose, which tile and wildlife token you want to pick. So I'm thinking of placing this tile right here, so that allows us to make 2 river tiles next to each other. How you know that they are considered adjacent and would count for your continuous habitat is it has to be that specific type of habitat is connected on one of the long edges, any of the long edges. So right now I have 2 river tiles connected. You can see here with wetlands, I still only have 1 on each, but if somehow I can get a wetlands coming around here, I could connect that. But of course that'll cut out my mountains, so maybe that's not a good idea. After placing that, I will place my salmon out, and I definitely wanted to place it here because that will allow me to gain 1 nature token. I'll set that aside. We can have as many nature tokens as we want, and remember, they're worth points if we end up not using it. All right, let's go back and draft our next tile. Looking at the offer, this looks like it's pretty much a no-brainer because it will gain us another nature token. However, I'm going to then lose this tile, and I kind of like this tile, and I like the wildlife token. Hawks are pretty easy because you just need to make sure they're not adjacent. So I think I'm actually going to grab these two, which means then this one will get removed, and we'll slide these two down and replenish it with 2 new tiles and 2 new wildlife tokens. And it seems we have found our first bear. Nice. When placing tiles for your habitat, you can't place them like this. They need to connect to at least one side. So because of that, I think I might just place this one. You know, I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to do it here because then I'm going to place our hawk right here. And if I can get a fox here, and I'm hoping another salmon here, that will mean this fox will at a minimum score me 2 points because we have 2 unique animals that are adjacent to it. This also increased my forest habitat to 2 tiles as well. Going to our next turn, I'm really liking what I'm seeing here because we would first of all get another salmon and get some more river. But this is still tempting me, and we're going to lose this if I don't pick it up. So I think I am going to pick this one up, which means this one will be removed. We will push these 2 down and replenish them. We have another bear, and we have a keystone tile that we could place a salmon. Ooh, I like that. It feels like it makes the most sense to place this here. It's going to cut off my wetlands, so there's pretty much no chance I'm going to connect those two. That's okay. I still think it's worth it to place it here. We'll place our elk accordingly and gain our 2nd nature token. Nice. I do want to explain that you can only ever have 1 of these wildlife tokens per tile. And also, if I had placed this here, this would not be considered connected to this tile. But maybe if I had drafted another mountain, I could do that. So you know what? I think I'm going to change what I'm going to do. I'm going to place it here instead because now if I get a fox, I should be able to have 3 unique types of animals here, and that would score me 3 points. And then I would just need a mountain here to be able to make 3 consecutive tiles. I think that's pretty good. For our next choice, I think we're going to go for the salmon here with some more river. That means we're going to lose this one, and we'll slide these 2 down, replenishing with 2 more tiles. And finally, we got some foxes. I like it. Let's go ahead and place this tile right here. So we now have 1, 2, 3 river tiles connected. I will also place this salmon here, and if I can get a 3rd one in, so right now with a 2 salmon, I'm scoring 5 points for this. I'm scoring 2 points for this, and this is scoring me 2 points as well. For this turn, I think I'm going to use my 1st nature token, so I will remove that from my pile. I still have 1 left. I'm going to grab this, no, not this one, this one. I'm going to grab this fox, and I'm going to grab this tile. I really want that tile because it's another one that's going to give me more of those nature tokens. So I'll grab these 2. Now, what's different when you have empty spaces like this, we will remove these 2 and then slide all of these down. So these 2 are actually going to now switch to where they are connected. And we'll flip over 2 more of these tiles. We found a couple more bears, but still not more salmon. I want more salmon. For this tile, I think I'm going to place it right here because that means if we get another salmon, we can place one here and here. That means we can get 4 in a row. That means I cannot and do not want to place a salmon here. Otherwise, that's going to stop my long run, which would mean if I can get another bear tile around here, that'd be nice. I can maybe have a mating pair there. I'm definitely going to place the fox here, though, gaining my nature token back. And now that for sure has scored me 2 points at the end of the game. For our next turn, and I should say you have a total of 20 turns in this game. This game is super, super fast. Even competitive, it's super fast. I'm going to go for this one. We're going to remove these 2, slide these 2 down, and replenish it with 2 more. Oh, I want that one really bad. Let's get our wildlife tokens. And that was actually a pretty nice pull. We now also have an elk connected with an elk tile. I think it's a no-brainer what we're getting next time. Let's place this river tile right here, and that now means we have 1, 2, 3, 4 river tiles connected. I am going to place the bear here, hoping I can get another bear tile here and make a mating pair. Also, if I place a hawk in this spot, that hawk is not adjacent to this one, so that will mean that these hawks will score us 5 points if I decide to grab one. But for this draw, no hawks. Instead, it's an elk, which is going to get us a guaranteed nature token. I'm just going to grab it now, so we have a total of 3. This one's going to get removed, and we'll push these 2 down, replenishing with 2 more tiles. And we have a salmon. Yes, I wanted to see that. Now remember, with elk, we want a straight line if possible. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to place this elk here. We have a nice straight line of 2. If I can get one more here and one more farther down here for 4, that will give us the max points of 13 for elk. And for every set of those, we gain those points. So if I can get another set of 4, that'd be great. But right now, I'm happy with that. And because of that, I think I'm going to use another one of our nature tokens. We have 2 left. I'm going to grab this elk with this tile. So let's grab those 2. That means then we will remove these 2 from the board. Then we'll slide these down like so and replenish with 2 more tiles. And we've got ourselves another elk, another fox with another bear keystone tile. What I'm thinking of doing here is placing this tile here and placing one more elk there. So when we now have our line of 3 elk, that's 9 points. The only bad thing about that is that's still meaning that this fox is only worth 2 points instead of 3 because these 2 are the same type of animal type. But what can you do? For our next choice, I think I'm going salmon and this tile, which means we'll remove this tile and this wildlife token. Slide these down. We'll place out 2 more of these tiles. And of course, we only get foxes and elks. Great. I'm really looking for that grizzly bear pair, so I'm going to place this here, hoping that I can gain a grizzly bear. I also now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 river tiles. I just need 2 more here to make that 7, which will then mean it's worth 9 points. I'm also going to place this salmon here, which will gain us our 3rd nature token, and that will now be worth 8. That's worth 8 points for those 3 salmon. I'm really not in love with these wildlife tokens, so I think I'm going to spend 1 nature token, and I'm going to grab all 4. Will then set them aside and replenish them 1 at a time. Come on. I need a bear or something. So we have a hawk. Oh, a hawk would actually work really well. We then have another fox, because why not? We have another hawk. And our 4th one, we have a bear. Okay, good options. I'm then going to take those 4 that I had just removed and place them in the bag. I think for this turn, I'm going to go for the hawk because I want to be able to place that hawk out and get another nature token. We're also then going to remove these 2, slide these down. And don't ask me why I have such a hard time saying it's wildlife tokens and habitat tiles. There we go. So I think I'm going to place this tile actually up here. That will mean we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these river tiles. 1 more and it's going to be worth 9 points. We're also going to place this hawk here. That will give us another one of these. We have a total of 3. And now with 2 hawks, that's going to be worth 5 points for us. And we have our 3 salmon. That's worth 8 total points. I'm thinking of taking a chance here. I'm going to grab this one this time. That means we're going to remove this tile. We'll slide this down, slide this over. We'll place out 2 more of these. We're going to run out of tiles real quick. And this makes me very happy. We have another salmon wildlife token. I'm really hoping we're going to gain another grizzly bear because I'm thinking of placing this here, placing this grizzly bear here, and that will gain us another one, our 4th nature token. If I happen to put a grizzly there, I'm thinking a salmon though. I don't know. But then I could potentially do another grizzly bear here with a fox here that could at least score 2 points. For our next choice, I think I've got to go for the other grizzly bear. I have an idea. We're going to remove this one, slide these 2 down. I can go for the salmon next time, replenish with these 2 tiles. And we got ourselves another grizzly bear. Nice. We have 4 out of the 5 different types. Let's go ahead and place this tile here so we can add to our wetlands and to our mountain connections. So our mountains are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and our wetlands are 1, 2, 3. We'll then place this bear here. So now we have 1 mating pair. We just need another mating pair. That will be 11 points if we have 2 mating pairs. 3 of them would be 19. Oof, I don't know if we're going to get there. For our next tile selection, it's going to be hard to say no to that. We will have to remove these two. I mean, yeah, I've got to go for the salmon. I could use a nature token, but I don't think it's worth it yet. And we'll place these two out, placing out 2 new wildlife tokens. Apparently, the game wants me to go for foxes. What I think I'm going to do here is place this keystone tile here because we can still place a hawk here and it won't be adjacent to any other hawks like those two. And we're definitely going to place this salmon here with 4 connected. That's 12 points. I like that. For our choice here, I think it's a no-brainer. We're going to go for this one. That will give us another nature token. So I'll just grab that now. That's our 5th one. We're going to remove these, slide these down, and let's flip over 2 more tiles. Okay, another salmon one. That's good. All right, let's see what we draw. Wow, look at this. All wetlands and plains. Well, would you look at that? We got 2 salmon as well. I'm not unhappy about that pull. Let's go ahead and place this fox right here, I think. It's going to continue on our wetlands. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's connected to 2 unique animals, so it's at least worth 2 points. Ugh, I want them to be worth more than 2. This one's going to be worth 1, 2, 3, 4. That's actually pretty good, but this one's only 2. And you know what? With what I see here, I'm actually thinking of going for this one. We'll also gain another one of these nature tokens. That's the most nature tokens I've ever gained, but that's also because I'm playing solo. This is the first solo game I'm playing, I should say. I've played 3 competitive games. This is my first solo one. Oh yes, we got a hawk. That makes me happy. And hey, another fox. Well, it's not really great, but I'm thinking of placing this fox here. And that means it'll score us 2 points unless I get something else connected to it. But I am gaining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total of these wetlands. If I can get 2 more, that'll be a 7. I think I already have 7 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, if I can do 2 mountains and 2 wetlands, that'd be amazing. I've got the wetlands choice right here, no problem. We'll remove this one, slide these 2 down, replenish with 2 more. And oh boy, this is going to be interesting. I have another salmon here, but the only place I can put it are not wetlands. I was hoping to get wetlands tiles. We'll place this tile right here so that we have another wetlands, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fishes connected. Oh man, I need 2 more fish to get that all the way up to 25 points. Don't know if that's going to happen. Well, I'm thinking I'd like to get another salmon out. I mean, each one is getting me a lot more points, so I think I'm going to go with this one. That means we'll lose this one over here, push these down. I'll grab that in a second. And we do have another salmon. Oh, there's so many options here. I think I'm going to place this tile here because it connects to the forest. It also connects to the river. And it's going to give us another salmon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I get 1 more, that's 25 points just for salmon. I'm not sure if this is worth it, but I am going to use one of my nature tokens for this turn. So I'm back down to only having 3, 4, 5 instead of 6. And I'm going to grab these 2. Oh, so weird, I know. I have a plan, potentially. We'll see if it plays out. I'll replenish that. This is going to slide down to here and slide over. We literally have 2 more turns, you guys. 2 more turns. Oh, I was hoping for some mountain tiles. Unfortunately, no mountain tiles and no grizzly bears. Oh no. Well, I'm definitely going to place this tile here, looking to get another mating pair. That's why I wanted grizzly bears. And I'm going to get that nature token right back by placing that hawk. And that will put us up to, I think, 8 points for hawks. Yeah, that's pretty good. But I really need a grizzly bear. But you know what else I need? This here. This actually might work. So I'll do that. I'll remove this. This is going to be our last turn after this one. We have, oh great, now we get a mountain. So there's no way we're going to be able to do it for getting 7 mountains. But I did get a grizzly bear. Nice. Let's go ahead and place this tile here. That will connect for our wetlands. And we can place this here, which means we now have 3 unique wildlife tokens adjacent to this fox as well. So I will take that. And the final tile pair I think we'll grab is this one. I'd love to be able to place this tile somehow to be able to connect both the mountain and the wetlands, but I don't think there's a way. Yeah, no, it's only going to do one or the other, so it's not really going to matter. We'll just place that here, and we'll place our grizzly bear here, so we have our 2 mating pairs. And that's it. That's the game. Look at how fast it is. Now what we'll do is we'll count up our points. Let's hope we get 80. And if we did, we can check off that scenario and move on to the next. They've got a really nice score sheet here, so let's just walk through it. We'll start with the bears. So we have 2 of the mating pairs, and you can see on here, 2 mating pairs gives you 11 points. Next, we have our elk. We have 1 line of elk, but it's only 3, so that will give us a total of 9 points. Our salmon was our big pull. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total salmon. 7 plus salmon is 25 points. I like that. We have 3 hawks on the board, all not adjacent to each other. 3 hawks equals 8 points. And for our 3 foxes, this one will score us 1, 2, 3, 4. This one here will score us 5, 6, 7. This one will score us 8, 9, 10. So 10 total points for the foxes. That means for the top portion here, we scored 63 points. Now let's count our longest corridors of each habitat type. We'll start with the mountains. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just needed 1 more. So we don't get the +2 bonus, it's just 6 points. The forest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just 5 points. We didn't get the bonus. The prairie land, 1, 1, 1. Yep, 1. That was not great. The wetlands, though, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we get the bonus of 2, so that's a total of 9. And then for the rivers, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus the 2, so that's a total of 10. We also have for unused nature tokens 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, that's the most nature tokens I've ever had not used. And if my math is correct, we scored exactly 100 points. That's kind of impressive. Yeah, that was a pretty good game. That's the highest score that I have ever had. I've played with Brent. I think Brent scored 101 the last time we played. Yeah, he scored 101, so he still beat me by 1. Ugh. Brent, I'm going to get you. But yeah, that was fun. As you can see, it's light. It's not a challenge to play. It's relaxing. It looks beautiful on the board. I love looking at this. It's simple. And what's fun is that there are 5 different types of these. Let me show you a couple of them. You've got nearby pairs, or nearby related, or dynamic duos, or nearby diversity for the foxes. Then for the elk, you want to have maybe potentially different types of ways that they're connected. Bears, you might want to have a mother and cubs, or you want to have families, or big groups, or equal groups. You might want short runs, or families, or surrounded. Oh my gosh. And then the hawks have line of sight. They need to have line of sight to each other without having other hawks in the way. Or for every different animal type in between them that you can see, you score different points. I mean, there's just so many different ways. Oh, and then my favorite part, because I have young children, you can play it with, well, this is the intermediate, but this is the family variant. The family variant, you just score 1 point for every group size of 1. For every group size of 2, it's 5. And for every group size of 3 or more, is 9. So Connor just knows to get the ones that look similar together, get all the foxes together, but no more than 3. Because if you get 4 foxes together, it's not going to score you any more points. It's only going to be 9. So you want to have some separation, but you want to get groups of 3 if you can. Nice and simple. Then it goes to an intermediate variant where it has any shape. You can have 2, 3s, or 4s group sizes, but you can see a single one doesn't score you any points. So it really gets you to try and get them as close together, or the same types next to each other as possible. Just really fun, simple ways to make this accessible for kids. As always, thank you so much for watching, subscribing, and just generally being awesome. I can't wait to see you in my next playthrough or top 10 series. I'll catch you at the next stop.